A tradition unlike any other, Mike. The 2022 Sons of UCF schedule preview. We go through the games and we tell you how we think UCF's going to fare. We give you our end of season record, our predictions, what we think is going to happen. Again, if you are listening to us, you can feel free to hit pause right here. Head to the YouTube channel. We've got visual accompaniment that is now available for you on YouTube as we do this particular segment, Mike. I know this is your favorite thing to do every year is to break down the schedule. You have a tradition of predicting undefeated seasons. So I don't know if you want to give it away just yet, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, we're going to go through it game by game. The very first season we did this was 2018. We were coming off a perfect season. We did go undefeated in the regular season that year, so I was correct on that one. We ended up losing to LSU, but I didn't even know who the opponent was in that game, so can't really credit me with the loss on that one. 19, I felt very confident about that team going into 19 and started off hot. You know, the Stanford game, things started falling apart in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. We lost a couple tough ones. 20, the COVID-shortened year, felt good against on that schedule too. It was only conference games. You know, I thought we were one of the best teams in the conference. A couple of tough losses there. Last year, I don't remember exactly what I guess I predicted us to win them all.
But, well, yeah, I think you did, right? Because we had Dylan Gabriel. We thought this offense was Gus. We had all these guys. I think running back was the one position last year we didn't know about because we didn't know who the heck Bowser was. RJ Harvey was injured. So oddly enough, the position we feel good about this year is probably the one last year that we were like, who's going to run the ball? Is this Bowser guy our guy? So it's ironic how that worked out.
Yeah. So, I did feel comfortable with Gabriel, that whole thing. So this year, a little different now. We finally found out who the quarterback is, and we've known the schedule for a while. We've just dissected that a bunch of times. We know the order. We know we don't know the times of all the games, but we know who we're playing, bye week, all that stuff. Now it's time to break it down. Are we going to win each one?
Pages and notes right here, Mike. Here's how we did this year, though. This is kind of the new wrinkle. So again, we have no idea. I mean, there's game to game bounces happen, field goals miss, and then there's Navy, right? Like we can't predict all these things. So for each game, Mike and I are going to give out our confidence rating on this game. So it's from 5 to 1. Here's the scale that I texted Mike earlier. He did not dispute this scale, so I'll say this is true. Number 5 is a no doubter. We're going to win that one. Put the women and children to bed early, but we're good. We're going to win that one. A 4 confidence rating might be close for a bit, but we're going to pull away late. So maybe it's, one of those 24-21 at the end of the third quarter. We go ahead and win that one, 31-24, right? It's close for a little bit, but we're clearly the better team. A 3 rating means it's a close game. Could come down to one play, maybe a stop on third down, maybe an interception, maybe a field goal, maybe, having to get a first down to run the clock out. Could come down to one play. And it's important to note on a 3 confidence rating, that does mean UCF could still lose because if it's a one-play game, you never know what that one play will be. A 2 confidence rating, it's an uphill battle game. UCF certainly can win, but they're going to have a great game, almost a mistake-free, perfect game to win. And a 1 confidence rating is a no way we win game, Mike. So those are the confidence ratings that we have decided this year. That's how we'll work this out. We'll get the first game on the screen here, Mike. So September 1st, UCF at South Carolina State. Mike, give me your prognostications on this one.
Well, we finally know who's starting. We are vastly more talented than South Carolina State. We should be able to do whatever we want on offense. We should be able to stifle them on defense. I see this one going, lopsided. We get all 3 quarterbacks in. Plumlee comes in. He scores on his first 3 drives. Maybe you give Keene a shot there at the end of the second quarter or something. And, you see Castellanos in the fourth quarter. This should be a blowout game. This should be something like 45-0. I feel very confident in this game. Give me a 5 confidence rating.
You said Mike with a 5 for his confidence rating. Here's a couple of fun facts about South Carolina State. Mike, they're the back-to-back MEAC champions. So put some respect on the name if you don't mind. They also won the 2021 HBCU National Championship by virtue of beating Jackson State in some sort of a bowl game there. So certainly they've had some success, Mike, but I don't think this is a team that can keep up with what UCF has to offer on the depth side, the speed side, just the athletes overall. I agree with you. I think this is a 30-point plus victory for UCF. Maybe a garbage touchdown by South Carolina State makes it a little bit more palatable from a final score standpoint, but my confidence is with yours. I'm also at a 5. So I feel like we are aligned on the first one.
I didn't know they were that good last year. I mean, maybe they lost a lot of seniors from those teams. It's possible.
They're only 7-5 last year, by the way. So that's let's break down a notch here. Game 2, Mike. This one, it's an early season, a great test. September 9th at home, Friday night, 7:30. Louisville comes to town, Mike. If those who forgot, and I don't blame you if you did, obviously UCF went to Louisville last year, was in a bit of a slugfest, had a chance maybe to go down and potentially put a winning field goal on the board. Did not do that. Interception, pick 6. That whole thing turns around. Season falls apart from an injury standpoint at that point, Mike. Now we get Louisville at home, revenge game. Louisville, an ACC team, Mike. What do you got?
This is a big one. Big one early in the year. We need revenge. First time ever Louisville comes to Orlando. We've played them 3 times up there. We know the one in 2013, 38-35 game, Godfrey in the back of the end zone. We know what happened last year. This is a big one for Plumlee. It's a big one for set the tone for the season. If you're talking about New Year's 6 game, you got to win this one, right? And the one big advantage is we're going to be at home. I think this is going to be a raucous crowd. This is going to be one of those atmospheres like college game day in 18. It's going to be like the Stanford game in 19. We haven't had one of those probably since the Stanford game. Remember, 20 was a COVID year, 21 last year. Losing this game on the road early kind of deflated the crowd a little bit. The Boise State game wasn't full because of the rain delay. This is going to be the game early on where we're bouncing, we're loud. That's going to be the difference in this game, but it's going to be close. I don't expect us to blow these guys out. You know, we saw last year we were pretty evenly matched teams, a ball here or there either way. I think this could be one of those that comes down to the wire, maybe even one of those classic overtime thrillers in the bounce house. But UCF at home pulls one out. Confidence rating is a 3, but this one can go either way. But I do think we take the win at home.
All right, Louisville was 6-7 last year, Mike, 4th in the AAC Atlantic. There was some thought about whether their head coach would even return this year. He does. This boils down to me, one guy, Malik Cunningham. This guy killed us last year. Our defense could not really ever find a way to keep him in the pocket, keep him contained. And I looked up his stats, Mike. He had a great year last year. He rushed for over 1,000 yards with 20 rushing TDs, threw for over 3,000 yards with 19 TDs, only 6 interceptions. So this kid is the real deal. This kid is, exactly what we probably hope Plumlee will be for us, right? This is the kind of play that we want. Their defense is losing some talent on the front 7. So let's see how that impacts us. Obviously, we want to run the ball, I assume, a bunch. If they're soft on the front 7, that certainly helps out from that standpoint. They do have some more weapons on offense. But, obviously, I think Malik Cunningham is the name of the game last year. I'm going to say this out loud, Mike, and I mean this with all sincerity. He flat out embarrassed T-Will. I mean, this was one of T-Will's early games as D coordinator, and he flat out embarrassed T-Will. We could not figure out a way to stop Malik Cunningham. T-Will's had an entire year to think about this now. Hopefully the injury bug does not bite us, and we get some of those boys back that we did not have last year. But this is a big one. I do think the home field advantage is what I would give is what I would also give UCF credit for in this one. And so if you're doing like the Vegas thing, you get the 3 points for being at home. I think that does give UCF an advantage, maybe some crowd noise, maybe some energy, a tip pass or here or there. I do think this is close. I think this is one in the 4th quarter, Mike, when you and I are pacing the upstairs of the cabana, just jumping around and trying to figure out what to do with ourselves. I think we come out with a win, but I'm with you. I'm on a 3 confidence here for UCF Louisville.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those where Louisville has the ball at the end, and the defense is going to make a stop to win it. Something like that goal line stand against Houston in 2013, the championship game with the Trey Neal interception. Hold on to your shirts. Hold on to your hats for this one. It's going to be a thriller, but we're going to pull it out. I feel like we're going to win this game.
All right, so Mike's got us 2-0 now going into week 3. And we're heading down to Boca Raton again, a road game, but actually still an in-state game for us. The FAU Owls, the Willie Taggart bus is now in Boca Raton. Mike, what do you make of the FAU game?
This is pretty much another home game. I know it's in Boca, but UCF fans are going to pack this place. We're coming in with a group of about 20 ourselves. So, it's basically going to be Orlando South down here. We did the same thing a couple years ago. We took over the stadium, and we know how well we play in front of our home crowd. Now we've had 2 games. Plumlee's starting quarterback. He's gotten through the Louisville game. We had the warm-up game against South Carolina State. The offense should be rolling now at this point. Defense should be settled in. This should be one of those where we just go in there like we did in, 2019? And just kind of just handed it to them. They couldn't stop anything we did. Adrian Killens and Otis Anderson are just breaking ankles all over the field. We're just a faster team, a stronger team. I'm very confident in this game. I give it 5 confidence points. I think we're going to win by 3 touchdowns, comfortably. They might hang in there for the first half. They're at home first quarter, but second half, Bowser just wears these guys down and we put them away like 35-20, something like that.
FAU was 5-7 last year, Mike. They lost their last 4 games. They have some names that you would know. N'Kosi Perry, former Miami quarterback, is their starting quarterback. Johnny Ford, former Cal's running back, is their running back, Mike. But they are a team that unfortunately just doesn't have a lot of depth on the defensive side of the ball. They only had 17 sacks as a team last year. They lost their starting quarterback. He went to the NFL draft. And so it sounds like defense, they don't have the horses and the stable to be able to keep up with what I think UCF will provide them just from a rushing attack alone. Their offensive line struggled in 2021. They only had 4 games, Mike, where they ran for over 100 yards. So clearly there's some struggles on FAU. I think Willie's going to put some going to put some wrinkles into this, right? I think he sees UCF on the other side. It's probably going to bring back some old memories. Probably throws a couple gadget plays here and there, a couple wrinkles here and there. For FAU, this is their Super Bowl, right? This is their opportunity to beat one of the big boys in state, get some bragging rights. I think they'll be amped up. I think they'll be juiced up. I do think the crowd will be 50-50, though. I think that'll hurt them a little bit. I think there'll be just as many UCF fans as are FAU fans for that one. I thought about going a 4 on confidence, but after I read through their bio, Mike, I couldn't do it. I got a 5 on this one. I agree with you. I think maybe it's 10 points at halftime or whatever. But I think in the second half, I think our depth, our speed, our power, our size, I think outmuscles FAU, and we come out with a win, Mike, which makes us 3-0 by both of our accounts at this point.
That's right. Off to a good start to the season. Only one more non-conference game after this, and I like the way we start this season so far.
Georgia Tech then comes to Orlando, Mike, the 4th game on September 24th. Again, not announced from a game time standpoint. Georgia Tech obviously plays in the ACC. Mike, how do you see this one unfolding?
Yeah, we just played these guys a couple years ago and we beat the crap out of them in Georgia, up in Atlanta. The offense is a little different now, but they've been down for a while, Georgia Tech. They're probably one of the worst teams in the ACC. They have been for a little while now. Another game at home where I feel like our crowd's going to be into it. We don't know yet what time this game is. This could be a noon game. This could be a night game. We won't know that until a couple weeks before the game. But overall, I think we just outmatched them. I'm not going to put a 5 on it, but give me a 4. I think Georgia Tech will maybe, like you just said it with FAU. It's a 10-point game at the half, and then we just bury them in the second half. We pull away. So confident. Not as confident as the South Carolina State, but pretty confident we win this one.
Georgia Tech was 3-9 last year, Mike. They lost their last 6 games. They didn't score a point in their last 2 contests. They got beat like 100-0. I think it was Clemson and Notre Dame. So obviously important teams. But for us, Mike, Georgia Tech plays home at Ole Miss, or home to Ole Miss, and then they go at Pitt after us. They open the season with Clemson. So in theory, they have Clemson, they have a cupcake, then they have Ole Miss, us, and then Pitt. That's a tough start to a season for Georgia Tech. If they've lost Clemson big, and if they've lost at Ole Miss, I mean, this may be a team that's reeling at this point. Their quarterback, just so everyone knows now, I'm going to say it now so that we don't have to hear this in the future. Jeff Sims is their quarterback. He's related to Mike Sims Walker. That's going to come out like a few hundred times, so I'll be the first to get it out for you now. Jeff Sims is their quarterback. Obviously, they're transitioning away from the old wishbone-style offense. Jeff Collins is their head coach. The offense is definitely struggling. Their top running back transferred to Alabama. That's probably never a good sign, Mike. They're trying to replace with a couple of guys. Offensive line loses 3 starters from last year. Defense was 11th in the AAC in run. They were last in all of college football in passing efficiency. They lost 4 starters on the front 7, only had 3 interceptions on the season, only 1 from the secondary. A lot of holes to be filled up here at Georgia Tech. They have to make some pretty serious strides in the offseason. Stranger things have happened, but it's a team they're going to fight. I think Jeff Collins' teams always fight. We've seen him when he was at Temple. I wanted to go 5 in this one too, but I'll respect some of the playmakers, maybe some of the speed they'll have. I went with a 4. I went with you on this one because I could see UCF maybe winning, getting up early, and maybe let the foot off the gas, and maybe a couple of plays sneak by us here and there, and we still win comfortably. But I could see us getting out early. But everything on paper looks like Georgia Tech is just a mash unit. So we'll see how that works out, Mike. But I think it's another nice Power 5 win for UCF.
You almost talked me into moving it up to 5 just now with how
Okay.
bad these guys are. The only reason maybe, if it's a noon game, the crowd's not into it as early. Maybe we sleepwalk through the first quarter or something and keep it closer than it should be. But we are the better team.
So now 4-0, according to both you and I at this point. And then SMU comes strutting to town. The Ponies come to Orlando October 1st. Again, this will be a big one in AAC play, Mike. We don't know the time of this game yet. October 1st, the Ponies. Your thoughts?
These guys manhandled us last year. It was ugly. It was over early, and they just kept pouring it on as much as possible. They're a good team. They got a good quarterback. They've got some good weapons. This is not going to be an easy game. Glad that it's at home. I'm not as confident. This is one of those, just like the Louisville game, I believe, where this can come down. This is going to be a fourth quarter game. Play here or there. Whoever makes the big mistake may end up costing them. But again, being at home, I think gives us a little bit of that edge there. So give me 3 confidence points in this game. But I could see a possibility where we could lose. But I'm just not going to pick us to lose.
SMU was 8-4 last year. You mentioned the game, Mike. 55-28 was the final score. Their schedule's interesting. The week before us, they play TCU. TCU is a Power 5 Big 12 team, but TCU's head coach, Sonny Dykes, was previously the head coach at SMU last year. Brett Lashley, is now their head coach. And they have a bye week after us, Mike. So it's interesting. They play what I assume is going to be an emotionally charged game the week before. Then they play us. Then obviously they have a bye week. So curious to see kind of what their mindset will be coming into this one. I think for most people, this is one of the bigger American Conference games scheduled for right now. Brett Lashley, again, he was the offensive coordinator for SMU. He was with Miami last year. Their offense was pretty prolific, 466 yards a game, 38 points. Tanner Mordecai, their quarterback, returns 36 hundo yards, 39 touchdowns, Mike. They have a couple of running backs, a Bama transfer that comes in. Last name is Wheaton. Secondary could be a challenge, so we'll see where they're at. They do get Cincinnati and Houston later on the season, both at home. So for them, this is the game that I imagine they're saying, if we win this one, we have the opportunity to run the conference now because we have both of our tougher 2 opponents in our home stadium, which, by the way, is underwater today if you saw any pictures on the internet. So this is their chance. This is their Super Bowl, but they have an emotionally charged game ahead of us. This team scares me, Mike. This team scares me. They have weapons. Clearly last year they got the better of us. They have a really good quarterback. We think we have a good secondary, so by game 5, we should know where they're at. This is one that I could see this one going down to the wire and us getting the short end of the stick. I don't know if I'm predicting a loss on this one, but if you ask me to find a loss on the schedule, this could be one you could talk me into. I'm still going to go 3. I don't think this is a blowout by last year. I think this is a close game, but this is one that, Plumlee makes that one mistake kind of deal, and we end up, giving the ball away. These guys are pretty good on offense. We'll see if they can hold down our defense. They seem to be pretty good on the run. That's obviously our strength. So I don't know if it's a style match for us. So I'm going to give 3 confidence points on this one, but this is one that's got me scared.
SMU's played us tough a lot, even in years where they weren't that good. They played us tough. 2013, they weren't that good, and it was a tough one up there. They've beat us a few times up in Dallas. I don't think they've ever beat us in Orlando. I don't even know how many times we've actually played them in Orlando. Probably only a couple of times. Obviously, the championship game in 2010, maybe 1 or 2 other times. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy one. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, overtime, fourth quarter, defense has to make a stop, something like that. It's going to be a nail biter for sure.
Yeah, our only hope is that for some reason the offense isn't gelling under Brett Lashley and they're having some troubles getting everything kind of picked together. They also have a backup quarterback that is a really high, I think is a 4 or 5 star recruit. Name is Preston Stone, that obviously went to SMU to play. Sort of did they do something? I think he played last year actually, but we were losing pretty big. Do they try to get him in the game, throw some rhythm off at that point? I mean, you got to hope maybe SMU shoots themselves in the foot a little bit on this one. You also got to hope that, for us, we come off the Georgia Tech game. So that's why that game in front of us is really important. If we can put that one away early, get some guys some rest. That's why I think Georgia Tech may score some garbage time touchdowns, because then we have SMU. We could rest up for that. And then after that, Mike, game 6, we have Temple. Right. So next week, the week after SMU, we recognize we probably don't have the toughest road there. So we'll see what that looks like. But game 6, October 13th, UCF welcomes the Temple Owls to Orlando. Mike, I think I know where you're going here, but why don't you go ahead and tell us why?
Yeah, this is also coming off a bye week because we played on October 1st, SMU, October 13th, Temple. Temple, I think, is the worst team in the conference, worse than the Cows. I think they were worse than them last year, too. This should be a blowout. I mean, we're coming in.
I'll give you $5 right now if you can tell me the name of their head coach.
No, I can't tell you anybody. I couldn't even name a player on their team. Fair enough. Rod Carey was the coach, right?
Yeah.
He's not the coach.
No, he got fired. Yeah, he got fired.
Right, so I have no idea. Yeah, they've been a dumpster fire for a little while now, Temple. I'm very confident in this game. One, we're fully rested. Two, they're very bad. This should be, and it's a space game. You know, we already know how well we played the space game. The guys are going to be hyped up with those uniforms. It's a night game, yes. Obviously, I think it's a weeknight game, Thursday night or Friday night.
I think it is a weeknight game. I believe it is. Hold, please.
The first is a Saturday.
It's a Thursday.
There you go. So should have some good crowd attendance. That the student section will be packed. They love those weeknight games. But this should be no contest. We should blow these guys out of the water. This game has 51-10 written all over it. Give me all the confidence points for this one.
Yeah, they were 3-9 last year. Mike, UCF wins 49-7. I mean, that's a game Mikey Keene played out of his mind. I think Alec Holler had 2 touchdowns in that game last year. Their head coach, by the way, Stan Drayton. Congrats to Stan on that job. Here's what you need to know. Their defense in 2021 gave up 4.8 yards a carry. That just smells like Bowser, Jay Rich, Marr, JRP will run all over them at that point. I think this is a pretty easy dub for UCF as well. So I'm going to give the 5 confidence points, Mike. So you have them 6-0 at this point? Is that correct?
That's right. 2-0 in conference, 6-0 overall.
Okay. Well, ECU is up next, Mike. We go to ECU October 22nd. This is an interesting old school rivalry. I believe it's 10-10, all-time series tied, if I have that right. So this is the rubber match, presumably one of the last times we may play ECU as we obviously move on to the Big 12. ECU played us tough at home last year. They're a bit of a darling this year. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, this is not going to be as easy as it's been the last few years, I don't believe, even though last year was not easy either. I mean, we snuck out of that game at home. They played us very tough. Now going on the road, Holton Ahlers has been there for 300 years already. He'll be back again this year. East Carolina, they may have a good season up to this point. If their record is solid, that's going to be a tough environment. They're going to pack that place. Those fans, go back to those 2005, 2006, 2007 years. That stadium was not an easy place to play at. I think they can get some of that back again this year. I still think we pull it off. If there is a game we slip up on the road, this may be one of the tougher road games on the schedule. I could see it. I could see this being that Navy game where people didn't expect us to lose. All of a sudden, we're in a dogfight in the fourth quarter, and one bad play turns into 2 bad plays. Something snowballs, and it gets away from us. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick us to win this game on the road also, with only 3 confidence points. I think it's close going down to the end. Somehow we pull it away.
ECU 7-5 last year, Mike. If you remember that game, we won 20-16. We need to basically mark Anthony Richards to dust the cobwebs off in a couple of final series to get us a victory, eke out a victory against ECU, which was an ugly game but a nice win. Holton Ahlers is 29 years old. He'll be back. They have a good running tandem, like Keaton Mitchell and Rajai Davis are back there. They're a good running tandem. ECU was 7-0 in 2021 when they ran for over 150 yards. So the running attack will be important. I'll hopefully know more about our running defense by the time we get to Game 7. We'll have seen how they hold up against a Louisville. We'll see how they hold up against an SMU. So we'll know how our rushing defense is. Clearly, that's the strength. CJ Johnson's back for his 19th year. I think that one guy is finally gone, number 22. I forget his name, the little white guy. I think he's finally gone for the first time ever. So we'll see what ECU can do. But this is a road game. Obviously, ECU this is their opportunity, I think, to get at us one more time. This is an old school rivalry. And week after, Mike, we play Cincinnati. We'll get back to that. But this is one of those quintessential trap games. If Cincinnati's playing well undefeated, if we beat we beat SMU, this could be one where we're starting to look ahead a little bit. I think ECU certainly played us tough last year. Hopefully Gus remembers that. I could see this thing going down to the wire late, similar to last year's game. But I do think at this point we'll have too much depth, too much talent on our side. But I side with you. Only 3 confidence points. Because if you tell me this is a 21-20 UCF victory, I wouldn't be surprised. If you tell me it's a 21-20 UCF loss, I wouldn't be surprised, right? I think this is going to be a close one. I think we'll play down a little bit. I think ECU is just talented enough, dangerous enough to give us some problems. But I do think we pull out a victory to win the series, maybe for all time.
East Carolina may not find themselves in the championship game this year, but they are going to knock off somebody along the way. That's gonna knock somebody else out. Whether it's us or SMU or Cincinnati or Houston, they're going to play a part somewhere in the standings. They're going to spoil somebody's season, I believe.
Well, they have Tulsa before this. Tulsa's always a tough team to play. After, they have BYU on a short week. But again, non-conference game for them, so it probably doesn't matter much. But obviously, another game they have to look out for. So we'll see how that transpires. Mike, I already said it. October 29th. Circle this one on the calendar, friends. This one has the potential to be a ginormous game. FBC Mortgage Stadium is going to be the site. We don't know the time yet on this one, Mike. Cincinnati, obviously the darling of last year, is coming to town to play us. Last year got ugly. We know how it went. This is a big one, Mike. I need the Mike analysis on this one. If there's losses coming, is this where you're going?
If there's losses coming is the question.
I said if. I said if.
This would be one of the ones. Anyone that has a 3 confidence point has a possibility of being a loss. This one, we got to get over the hump on these guys. It's 3 years in a row now they've beat us. Every championship team has that one team that, is just in their way until they finally get past them. We were that team for Memphis. We beat Memphis how many times in a row until they finally got past us with that Obarski kick. Memphis was that team for Cincinnati. Cincinnati lost to Memphis a couple of times at the end. What was it, the 2019 season? They lost in the championship game. They lost to them 2 weeks in a row. And then the following year finally got over that hump. We see that all the time with championship teams. If we're going to go on to win the conference this year, if we're going to play in the championship game, we have to be able to beat Cincinnati at home this year. This is a huge game on the schedule. I have it circled already. Confidence-wise, I mean, they're a good team. They've lost
when did you circle it? When did the circling take place?
As soon as the schedule came out.
Okay.
Circled it right away. That was probably the first game I circled. They're a very good team. Now, we know they lost a lot of talent from last year. They're not the same team as last year. But by this point in the season, they should have things under control. They should have things rolling by then. They have a tough start to the year at Arkansas. If they pull that game off, this could be one of those things where we're at collision course, 2 undefeated teams. We know the history between the two. Possible college game day, maybe. It depends on what other schedule is on the schedule that week, how the other teams look. I think it's Florida, Georgia that weekend, but we don't expect the Gators to be great, so that may not be one. It's possible college game day returns to Orlando. If it is to return to Orlando, it would be for this game, I would believe. But another one that's going to come down to the end, fourth quarter. We're heading into the fourth quarter, tied, down 3, up 3, something like that. It's a close one all the way through. Give me that home crowd again to be the difference. We pull it off. Three confidence points, but I believe in this team to get it done finally against Cincinnati. It's been a while since we beat these guys.
Ooh, it's a big one. 56-21. They took us last year, Mike. Obviously, only one loss in the playoff. Here's a couple of notices. They're playing SMU before us, so that could be interesting. If things have not gone well with SMU, where are they at from a mental perspective? Can they stay straight? So if SMU beats them at that point, now they have that one loss. How does that factor in? They have Navy after us. Navy's always tough to play, so are they looking ahead? Probably not at that point, though. They're returning all of their offensive line, which is concerning. They're returning a good tight end in Josh Wiley. Their quarterback position is up for grabs. Everybody thinks Evan Prater's the guy, but Ben Bryant was there, transferred, and is now back, so he presumably knows the system. Both corners are now playing in the NFL, so they have to replace some talent there. They have some running backs they have to replace with Jerome Ford. They have a transfer from LSU, plus 2 other guys there. So there is talent there. This kind of reminds me a little bit about, the situation where UCF where we had a really good season. Everyone thought we were going to step down, but we had guys, we had players that we were there to kind of reload with. So that kind of gives me a little of that reminder on this one. Luke Fickell obviously is a pretty darn good coach. Here's an interesting thing to think about, Mike. If we don't win this game, there will be players on our team that will leave UCF that have never beat Cincinnati. We lost them in 19, lost them in 20. We lost them in 21. If we don't win this year, there are presumably guys who are going to leave the team who have never beaten Cincinnati. In my mind, we cannot let that happen. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be one of those slobber knocker style games. It's going to be one of those games where someone on our side is going to have to make a big play, a key play at some point. If that's a defensive stop, if that's a special teams touchdown, something is going to have to break our way. I like our chances being at home. I like the possibility of Cincinnati maybe getting humbled earlier in the year and maybe starting to figure some stuff out and kind of get on that trail where they lose a couple. I actually probably feel more confident in this one than I do some of the other ones. But I do think it'll be close. Give me 3 confidence points on this one. But I do think UCF can pull this one out at home. Again, assuming the season's gone as we think at this point, I think momentum's on our side. But Cincinnati is going to be a tough out. I think a lot will determine on how they played leading up to this.
We've talked to a bunch of guys from that 2010 team that used to say the same thing about East Carolina. I think they had a team meeting before that game against East Carolina where, remember, we had already lost to them in 08, 09, I think even 06 and 07. They had our number. And people were saying the same thing. This is our last shot at these guys. We got to make it count now. I think there's going to be big talks about this game in the locker room leading up to this game. Guys know that this is the one we have to get by if we're going to play in that championship game. We have to win this one. So huge game on the schedule for this year.
Yeah, I that's surprising to me that there will be guys who potentially can never beat Cincinnati if we don't pull this one out. I think I also got to hope that this is one where Gus takes a little bit of that chip on the shoulder and says, okay, we got our ass handed to us last year. Granted, we didn't have all the horses that we wanted. We didn't have all the bullets in the gun that we needed. But I got to hope that this is one where Gus and T. Will have been sitting around all offseason saying, like, okay, how do we make this right? Because SMU and Cincinnati flat out embarrassed us last year. And again, we didn't have everybody we needed. Hopefully Gus has kind of taken that to heart and figuring out ways. And he stayed up all summer long trying to figure out how to beat Cincinnati, Mike. So Mike has us 8-0 going into week 9. Where we head to Memphis.
You also have us 8-0, don't you? And have we met confidence points on every one? Or are we in agreement on every game so far?
Not for long, we won't. At Memphis, November 5th. Obviously, Memphis is an opponent we played a ton over time, Mike. But we had a good game with them last year. A nice victory for the Knights. But going to Memphis, at this point, what our I guess ECU would be our toughest road game up to this point in time. But going to Memphis could be just as challenging, Mike. First road tilt for the Knights. What do you got?
Yeah, we beat Memphis handily last year. That was the game that we did the spaces. It was like a Friday night game, right? Mm-hmm. And we pretty much controlled that entire game. They didn't know who their quarterback was. I think they played a couple different guys back there. They took a step back last year from where they were the couple years before that. Mike Norvell leaving, and now the guy that's in there now, I don't even know what to think of him. So I'm not as scared of Memphis. I understand that, it's on the road. It could be a little chilly there in November, early November. We've seen some tough games there before too. I keep going back to 2013 season, but that was the season where the Cardiac Knights really became the Cardiac Knights. And it was because of games like this in Memphis, games where we were the better team, but we had probably no business winning that game. At the very end, we needed to stand back to knock the ball loose on the kickoff and a lot of breaks to go our way. I don't think we even need that much to beat this Memphis team. Our team should be rolling by then. I feel confident. I think they'll give us a fight early on. And I think this is another one where we just pull away in the second half and we win this one, 31-20.
Confidence points?
4 confidence points.
There you go. Yeah, it's correct. You did get 4 confidence points. So 6-6 last year. Obviously, we beat them 24-7. They started a true freshman quarterback in that game, Mike. His last name was Parrish. He's not actually with them anymore. I don't know where he went. Try to figure that out, but I don't know where he went to. They have a bye before playing us. They have Tulsa after us. And at this point, they would have played Houston already at home. So this is interesting because if for some reason they upset Houston at home, they've got a decently easy schedule up until this point, right? And now they're coming in playing us at home. That certainly changes the narrative for this particular game, particularly if we've beaten SMU and Cincinnati. Now we're sort of in the way if they can pull off Houston, and I know that's a big if. They have a new offensive coordinator, Mike, 3 offensive linemen returning. The new OC is pronounced to have a ground attack approach on offense. Quarterback Seth Hannigan is coming in. He played a little bit last year, got injured. And so I don't know that we got to see the full package he has. The D line is said to be young. Last year, gave up 418 yards per game, 29 points a game. Don't forget their head coach, Ryan Silverfield, said that he wants to send UCF out of the conference with a loss. Crazy things happen in Memphis. We've seen this before. It happens in the stands to some of our fans in the past. Crazy things have happened there. This is one of those. I feel like it's kind of that ECU style game. Let's say we beat Cincinnati the week before. We're coming down a little bit off a high, going to Memphis, a team that we probably are better than. I can see us playing down to our opponent on this one as well. It could be a night game potentially. Could be chilly on that game. Could be some guys banged up after a physical game the week before. I think we win this one, but I got the 3 confidence points. I think this one turns out closer than we probably wanted to. This is one of the fourth quarter where we're only up by like 4 or 5 points, 6 points. And we're like, what are we doing? We are way better than this team, but we're making mistakes, kind of like Tulsa-esque in some of those past years. So maybe I've just got some PTSD. We've always had close games in Memphis. It's kind of been a bit of a house of horrors for us. So I say this one stays close to. I think we win this one, but I think this is one at the end where we're like, what were we doing on this one?
Yeah, it's a possibility for a letdown game. I could see that angle. But, we've dominated this series against Memphis. They did beat us that one time with the Obarski missed field goal. If it's not for that, we've won 13, 14 in a row against them, something like that. So I'm not as scared of Memphis, especially not this year. But I could see, crazy things happening just because it's football. But I think we are the better team. We should win this game.
Yeah, I agree. It's just house of horrors. Feels like the last couple of times we've been there has been something of a crazy close game. If you throw out the 2015 year or whatever, it's been a crazy close game, something that we've had to kind of rally or, last second field goal, KZ flips into the end zone, right? There's always been something with Memphis. So I feel like we're there again, Mike. So game 10, if I have this right, I think I've got these out of order. Hold on a second. What happened to my... Yeah, well, there we go.
There we go.
We got Tulane. So it's game 10. Sorry for the graphic error there. So Tulane, Mike, not a fantastic team last year. Where are you at with confidence points? Where are you at with Tulane?
Yeah, well, it's the second back-to-back on the road. That's kind of what scares me a little bit. But again, better team. By then, if we are where I say we are, and we're 9-0 at this point, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see the New Year's Six game looking at you in the face. The ranking, by then we're probably in the top 15. So I feel confident going into this game. Tulane, by this point, who knows where they are in their season. That kid Pratt has played well at quarterback. I don't even know if he's going to be the starting quarterback this year, but he showed signs the last couple of years with a couple times we played him. But I feel good about this one too. Give me 4 confidence points. We win. Maybe they give us a ball game for 2-3 quarters, and then we're just too much for them down the stretch.
2-10 last year. Obviously, we eked out a 14-10 win at home on a chilly day. I was at that game. It was freezing. Willie Fritz, their head coach. They're returning 9 starters on offense, Mike, including some names you may know: Tajay Spears, Cameron Carroll, Deuce Watts is there. I think his brother Fat Watts has left, but Deuce Watts is still a receiver for Tulane. You mentioned Michael Pratt, 21 touchdown passes last year. He seems like a pretty decent quarterback. Name of the game, Mike, is turnovers. 25 turnovers for Tulane in 2021. They had 5 games where they had 3 or more turnovers. Clearly protecting the football has been a challenge for them. It's going to be a road game, though. You never know what will happen down there. I do think this is one that we should be able to win pretty handily, though. So I align with you on the 4 confidence points for what is game 10. Don't pay attention to the slide, Mike. That brings us back to Navy. We will play Navy again. Obviously, they are the next opponent. At this point now, you've got us undefeated going into Navy. Navy, obviously, last year still has us scratching our heads into what happened there, Mike. Where do you see this one playing out for, at this point, I guess, the 10-0 UCF Knights?
Yeah, I'm glad we get these guys at home this time. Obviously, we know – I still don't know how we lost that game last year. Up by 14 in the fourth quarter, found a way to blow it. But we are the better team. Again, we're the more talented team here. And now we're the ones kind of wearing them down. We're the ones with the running game. As long as we're healthy and the defense hopefully has figured out what went wrong last year. The defense is supposed to be better this year. This is a big game for the linebackers. I can see them giving us problems. I can see, just the way Navy plays, with their blocking schemes and all that stuff. It could be one of those tougher ones. But the fact that it's at home, I believe we another one where first half, maybe they're in there with us, but then we pull away there again in the second half. I feel confident in a win. Something like 36-25. Four confidence
points. There you go. Okay. This is another one of those T will win games, right? Because this is another game last year where T will and that offense, or that defense rather, did not play up to snuff. Again, coming off injuries, obviously the week before, it's Louisville, did not help a ton at this point. We had a bunch of bad assignments last year during this game. I remember specifically Eric Gilliard being out of position a few different times. Navy was 4-8 last year. Again, 34-30. They put up 34 points on us. Before that, they played Notre Dame, and then we are their last game until the Army-Navy game, assuming they don't go to the AAC champion. So we are the final game of the regular season before they face Army. Their quarterback is back, Ty Lavatai. He was a decent player last year, Mike. But what I read on research here is that all of their main running backs have left or graduated or gone. And their top 3 running backs this year are all under 210 pounds. And most people will remember Navy usually has a big bruising fullback, style guy that busts the line and gets a bunch of yards. These are smaller, lighter, skinnier running backs. So not necessarily a perfect fit for that offense. They lost a lot of players on defense. Their top 3 tacklers on defense are gone. I actually was going to make this a 3 confident point game because it's always close with Navy, right? It's always a close game. There's always an opportunity for them to chew the clock down, and you make one turnover and all of a sudden you don't see the ball for like 17 minutes straight. But I think the youth on the running back side, I think the youth on the defensive side, it being a home game for UCF, hopefully T Will's got a little bit in the pocket for this one. I'm going to agree with you on 4 confidence points for Navy. It always scares me, right? They run a different style of offense. They're going to cut block. Things can always get weird against Navy, but hopefully being at home and learning our lesson last year, and T Will's been in the lab figuring this one out.
Yeah, they got to make whatever adjustments that is necessary from last year's game. That was just an ugly one to watch, man. I still have nightmares about that game. Even with that blocked punt that they scored for a touchdown, we still had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter and still found a way to throw that game away. I don't know how, but that cannot happen again here at home. I feel good about this one.
All right, so that means 11-0 UCF, according to UCF Mike, traveling to South Florida. Good game could be Friday, Saturday. I don't think that's been decided exactly when the game is yet at this point, Mike. But the final War on I-4 game, as far as we can tell, for the foreseeable future. Obviously, a good rivalry game, our main rival for the last couple of years. UCF has handily taken this series over the last 5-6 years, Mike. The final installment on the road, last game of the year. Can't hold anything back now. What do you got for game 12 for UCF and the Cows?
Throw out the record books. For as bad as we think the Cows may be, I think they're actually going to be better than a lot of people think going into this year. They have to be. They can't be as bad as they've been the last few years. They got a new quarterback this year. Jeff Scott's job is on the line. They've played us tough the last 2 seasons. And the last 2 installments of this series have not been as easy as we thought it was going to be. Last year was a tough one all the way down to the end. The year before, I thought we were going to blow them out, and they somehow kept matching us touchdown for touchdown in that high-scoring game in Tampa. This one's on the road, but as you know, we'll have more fans there than they will, so that's not really going to be much of a factor. I feel confident. I don't feel like it's going to be a blowout confident. Unless we get that Timmy McClain. He still has that playbook in his pocket, and we know everything that they're running. Then this could get ugly. But I feel good about the game. I feel like 4 confidence points. We win the game, but it's not going to be, an easy blowout like we had maybe in 2018 and 19.
To your point, the Cows were 2-10 last year. We narrowly escaped with a 17-13 win. Really kind of went on the final play with Timmy McClain, obviously, but he's not there anymore. Jerry Bohannon, the quarterback, a transfer from Baylor. He had a decent year at Baylor last year, rushed for 9 touchdowns, threw for 18 more. They're returning a couple of weapons on offense: Xavier Weaver, Jaron Mangum, Kelly Joyner, Brian Battle, Jimmy Horn. So they have some speed. They have some good stuff on offense. Their line was a little suspect this year. I think they've got a couple of guys up front they feel really good about. So can the line stick together? Last year, there was a story of the collapsing defense for the Cows. New D coordinator starts this year. His name is Bob Shoop. Last year, for context, they gave up 476 yards a game and 35 points a game. Only had 9 sacks as an entire team last year. They are trying to shore up their defensive line, Mike. They have 5 transfers come in to play sort of D-line, D-tackle to try to begin to plug the run. They give up 5.8 yards per carry last year. Again, obviously, if they're weak against the run, I see Gus and Chip and everybody's smiling right now if we can kind of run the ball down their throat. They have a good linebacker, though, in Antonio Greer. But here's the thing. It's a rivalry game. It's the last time. I think the kitchen sink is on the table for this one, my friend. Cheap shots and trick plays and things you hadn't seen before. I think Jeff Scott goes to a page in the playbook Timmy McClain probably never saw before. I think you throw it all out. I think this will be kind of a wild west. I predict fights in the stands between our fans and the Cow fans. I think this will be one of those where it'll be a knockdown, drag them out. I do like your point about Timmy McClain. In theory, this year he's the scout team quarterback. So who better than to execute the Cows plays and scout team than Timmy McClain, right? But I imagine Jeff Scott will make a couple of wrinkles from here and there. And no matter what the Cows' record is at this point, I agree. I think they'll be improved. This is their Super Bowl. This is probably their bowl game. I don't think they're a 6-7 win team this year, right? They may go 4 or 5 wins. This is their bowl game. I think they're going to hold everything they can to win this one. I think it's going to be a tough, knocked out, drag down fight. I could see it going to a late decision on a stop on a field goal, Mike. So I'm only going to go 3 confidence points here. I do think we're the better team. I think we'll figure out a way to come out on top, but this strikes me as one that it's going to be a long afternoon with a lot of crazy stuff happening in between.
Yep, and that seems to be the way these games usually go. We've had blowouts, a couple here and there, but for the most part, this is a tough game. Again, 2013, we were the much better team. They only won 2 games that year, and it came down to the final minutes. We were losing that game with 4 minutes to go. So I could see it being a struggle, but I think just overall, and if we are undefeated at this point, we have everything to play for. That New Year's 6 game is right in front of your face. You go into that game in Tampa, and you take care of business.
All right, so that's the schedule then, Mike. So do I have this correct? You have not yet predicted a loss on this schedule. At least your confidence points haven't pointed to any loss. You've mentioned a few games that you think could be problematic for UCF. So your official prediction on record is?
Yeah, we are going to be favored to win pretty much every game. Maybe there's a game or two we're not. But, I mean, there's no game where we ranked it a 2. Right, where we have to play perfect to win. There's no game where we ranked it a 1 where we have no chance of winning. We have a chance to win every single game on this schedule. The toughest ones are at home. We know that. There are 4 games I put in there with 3 confidence points, which means we could lose those games. That's a bounce of the ball either way. Even if 2 of those don't go our way, 10-2 is a good year, probably good enough to get us in the championship game, depending on which games those are. If we lose to Louisville and we lose 1 conference game, I think we still find ourselves in the championship game. So that'd be a good year. If I had to bet on it, I'd say, 10-2 would be our record. 10-2. But you just heard me tell you why we're going to win every single one of them. So somewhere 11-1. Let's cut the difference and call it 11-1.
I got 10-2. I have our 2 losses coming in 2 of these 4 games. Louisville, SMU, Cincinnati, and Memphis. Selfishly, I hope it's Louisville, and then one of those other 3, right? Because from a conference perspective, that helps us out. But I think if we lose a game, I think it's within those 4 games right there. Hopefully, it's not 2 conference games, and if it is, hopefully there's chaos around us that keeps us in the conference championship. Mike, it's been a minute since we've been back in the AAC conference championship. I know you've said that's the bar this year. We must play in the conference championship game. In your mind, obviously, a 10-2 and 11-1 season that gets you in the conference championship. I guess depending upon when those 2 losses are, right?
Yeah, if we lose 2 conference games and one there to SMU and Cincinnati, we don't have the tiebreaker. Those teams would need 3 losses in order for us to make the championship game. So that's not likely. So I don't think you can afford more than 1 slip up in conference because Houston, they got that easier schedule. They're probably going to find themselves there on championship Saturday, and it's going to be between us, SMU, and Cincinnati for that other spot, I think.
What road game concerns you the most? You had ECU at a 3 confidence point, right? So I assume ECU is the road game that you have the most concern about?
Yeah, that's the first road game on this game. Well, I mean, FAU, which I don't count, but I would say that could be a tough environment to play in. Tulane, I don't think Raucous Crowd is a small stadium. I don't think really that's a big That's something that scares me much. The Cows is basically our home game too. So Memphis could be tough. But I think East Carolina is probably the scariest of the four.
Does this exercise change for you if it's Mikey Keene at quarterback?
Probably not, because we would have felt the same way about the team. I don't think it changes much.
Does it change for you that you've never seen John Rice Plumlee play quarterback and you have no idea if he's any good, but you just said we're going to win 11 games with his schedule?
Yeah. Well, this is called the Sons of UCF for a reason.
It's what the Sons of Plumlee a little bit.
If I thought any of these teams were that much better than us, I would say it. And I would say, we have no chance of winning this game. There's no game on here that I say we have no chance of winning. So I feel good about it. And like I said, there probably will be a slip up or two in there. I just can't tell you which one it is. There's no Alabama on the schedule. There's no Clemson on the schedule, anything like that. So I feel good every week lining up. As long as we're healthy with all the guys we've got, I feel like we could beat every single one of these teams on the schedule.
Ooh, healthy is a big issue though, right? I mean, last year we did not expect the injury. Who's the guy who gets injured that we can't overcome?
Ooh, Bowser?
Is it Bowser? I mean, we've got a stable behind him.
Yeah.
We saw how that worked out last year. Plumlee, we have Keene. We feel good about that potentially, or even Thomas Castellanos. Is there a guy that he gets injured and you say to yourself, oh no, now we got problems?
Yeah, I would say Bowser, especially if he gets hurt and he can't play the Temple game, we're fine. If he can't play against South Carolina State to open the year for whatever reason, we can deal with it. If he's not able to play against Cincinnati, or he's not able to play against East Carolina on the road, I'm not feeling great heading into those games.
It's interesting. Bowser, I think, is the natural choice. I think the other two I thought of real quick when I said that. One would be Jeremiah John Baptiste, because he's really our only veteran linebacker, right? That's already a position we're thin at. And then I know we played without him last year, but we're a much different team now, is Matt Lee. Not having a starting center. I think maybe Sam Jackson slides over to center. I think he's the backup center. I don't know if Palue is the backup center. I know last year Cole Schneider filled that out too. So Matt Lee and or Palue could be the other one that if we lost that guy, that may be a little more challenging. Obviously, there's 5 of them up front, so maybe you can cover up a little bit. But I think it would be somebody on the O-line, either Lee or Palue, Bowser, and JJB would be the ones I'd be the most concerned about.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But to me, this offense is going to revolve around Isaiah Bowser. He's going to be the workhorse all year. As long as he can stay healthy, I like our chances against anybody on the schedule.
All right, well, that's it. The official Sons of UCF schedule prediction went just as well as you would assumed it would, although Mike Scott is at 11. I think he said 11-1. You were at 10-2, and then we won another game really quickly in your head, so we're 11-1. So Mike's on 11-1. I am on 10-2. Hopefully we're both wrong, and we're undefeated, and we are going to a major bowl, and we're doing well.